This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by Paul Smith Jr here at the Rotunda ABC in Liverpool. Paul, it's been a while, mate. How are you?
I'm alright, thanks, mate. Good to see you.
You too. It's good to catch up. Last time we saw each other in person was in Texas. We've done a couple of Zooms since, so last time we spoke was best part of 4 or 5 months ago. I think it's just before Liam fought Kurbanov. So how's life been going since then?
Not bad. Same old, just plugging away. But good, yeah. Excited to be back with the lads in the gym. Watching the camps and doing a little bit of training before they do, and then watching the real serious stuff happen. But both of them are looking great.
Let's just start with Callum, because he obviously fights next weekend against Lenin Castillo. Teamed up with your old trainer, Buddy McGurr. I just want to get your take on seeing Callum with Buddy and how much you feel he's benefiting from it so far.
I think he's benefited a lot, and I think you'll see fight night. It's not major. It's not the reinvention of the wheel, you know what I mean? But it's just little subtle things which will benefit Callum a lot, and seeing good improvements in him. And it's just a bit different, it's a different type of training. I've said for years with Buddy, he's one of the best coaches I've ever worked with in my life. Joe Gallagher was a brilliant coach. I've worked with some good coaches in the past, Billy Graham, Georgie Vaughan, who's just retired, and I wish him all the best for his retirement. Lovely fella and a credit to the sport. But Buddy, probably, his experience in the ring, I think, helps him a lot. He was a very, very good fighter, but just simple common sense, which I believe is the best way to coach. And he sees things in Callum, and he's asking for certain things. And Callum's a great student and a very good listener, and is able to then, pull off what Buddy's trying to ask him to do. So he's looking really good, and I think a lot of people will be impressed when they see him.
Callum's first fight up at 175 with Castillo. What do we need to see from him? Is it just his first fight, just to settle into the weight, make sure that him and Buddy are in the same wavelength in the corner, or does he need to make a statement? Does he need to show everybody, I'm here, I'm at 175, I'm coming for another bout?
Possibly, yeah. But a bit of both. Just win, look well, enjoy it, and he's at the stage in his life now, not just his career, Callum. He needs to enjoy this, because it's not going to last forever. He's coming to the end, and that's not being, harsh or derogatory saying that. He's getting older, and we all do, and I wish I could go back and do it all again, but you can't. So the best advice is to just enjoy it. As long as he goes out there and enjoys it, shows the improvements that he's made, and gets the win more importantly, and most importantly, that's the important thing, I think. As long as he does that, then he's on track to hopefully try and get a world title fight at light heavy. His reputation and his achievements at the weight below will stand him in good stead to get that world title fight at the weight above. As is the same all over boxing, but I think if he puts a good performance in, he's on a massive platform, a massive show with AJ and Matchroom and the Zone and everything else. So there's no reason why, if he doesn't perform very well, he should be able to get a world title fight after that.
Moving forward and on to Liam Smith, your brother, fighting 2 weeks on from Callum. How is he looking ahead of his bout with Anthony Fowler?
He's looking good. I'd like to say he's walking around the gym smiling and happy as always, but he's not. He's never smiling and happy, is he? But that's a good thing with Liam. He's working well. He's looking good. He's really got the bit between his teeth with this fight, and he's getting a bit pissed off with all the talk. He won't say it, but I will. No, I think he is getting a bit pissed off, and so am I, to be honest with you. This is a fight what wouldn't have even been mentioned 12 months ago. It probably wouldn't have even been mentioned before the Kurbanov fight, and I'm reading some things on social media, and it's baffling me, but that's boxing, isn't it? Fowler has got a chance, he's got a puncher's chance, he can punch, but it's certainly not the type of punching that the likes of Munguia or Canelo or other kids that Liam fought in the past or even sparred with in the past have got. It's nothing that Liam hasn't seen before. Everything that Fowler brings is nothing he hasn't seen before, and yeah, I think you can probably tell the way I'm talking. I'm getting a little bit pissed off at it now myself, with it a bit seen and all, but it is what it is. It's part of the show, it's part of the build up, and I've watched so many fights over the years where I know for a fact who's going to win before it, but I get sucked into the build up myself. I'm thinking, oh, he's got a chance, this kid's got a chance, and that's how it goes. But my opinion when it first got mentioned to me by Liam, I've been offered that. It was, well, okay, great, go for it then. That if that's what it is, then do it. And I'm excited about it. He's looking really well, and as I say, that little nastiness, that little bit of spite coming back into him now, where he's got the bit between his teeth for this fight, not because the reasons that normally happen in the big fights, but it's a local derby, and him and us as a family sort of know how to deal with that. He's been around them before, so he's certainly prepared for it.
Can I just ask what comments in particular you've seen which have kind of, I don't want to say rolled up, but certainly not maybe ended up on your favourable side or on Liam's favourable side, which have certainly maybe caught your eye?
You know what? Not many, because the general comments I look for are from boxing people in the boxing fraternity, but there's been a couple where we were saying like, they fancy Fowler, or it's a good close fight, and they must be just assuming that Liam's finished or Liam's done and got nothing left, because that's the only reason that they could possibly say that this fight would be a close fight. And I think it will be a good fight while it lasts. I think it'll be an entertaining fight, because that's how the fight will have to be for both fighters. If Fowler wants to win this fight, he's going to have to do things to Liam what hasn't been done before. He's going to have to make Liam go to a place he hasn't been before. And for Liam to win this fight well the way that he wants to do, he's going to have to really grind Fowler down, work hard, get him out of there and stop him, and look very well doing it. So just a couple of the odd ones here and there of people who you'd assume are like pretty knowledgeable, or at least know the game, and to me they're just talking up their ass, but that's how it goes, isn't it? It's a fight. It's always going to think your opinion, and as long as the heart doesn't rule the head on your opinion, and I've got absolutely no problem with it. But it's happening. It's on, and we'll see fight night, and I really can't wait.
I just want to get your thoughts on a few other fights before I let you go, Paul. Obviously, Anthony Joshua, Usyk next weekend, the one which your brother Callum is fighting on. Just get your take on it. What do you make of it? Yeah, I know. I'm trying to remember.
You know what? I think if they fought 7 days a week, Usyk might win a couple. I think on the night Joshua will get it right. I think he's too big. I think he'll tag him. But again, I've said this saying before, and I'll always use it, because there's just some fights that happen. I wouldn't be surprised any result, and it's not sitting on the fence and back on AJ. I think AJ does the business. But if Usyk turned up and absolutely boxed out of his skin and boxed great and was hitting knocker hit, avoiding trouble, avoiding them big bombs, what AJ's got, tires AJ out, drags him right into a fight, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But as I said, I think the best way to describe is what I just said. I think they could box 10 times, he'd probably win a couple. But I think on the night, the first time and the one time that's going to run, I think he'll get it right, AJ, and probably stop him.
Edging ever closer towards Purewal 3 as well, Paul. Do you expect to see anything different in their trilogy bout?
Not really, no. I think it's hard to word it with Wilder. He's not a fraud by any means. He's got absolutely freakish power, but that's all he has. And that's saying what he says is probably right. They have to be perfect for 12 rounds. They have to be perfect for 2 seconds, and it's correct. He does. But I think Fury's been there and seen it and done it and got the T-shirt. And I think half the fighters that I see out there, mainly and namely Deontay Wilder, just needs to get rid of every single person around him who are blowing smoke up his ass and patting on his head with a towel and telling him he's great, and going with a proper boxing coach who knows boxing inside out, a well-respected trainer over in the States, someone who won't take no bullshit off him or will tell him what he needs to do. But it's easier said than done when they've got an ego like Deontay Wilder, so I can't see anything new from him. All the stuff that you see on when he's on the pads and all the stuff he's posting out on social media, even down to the bench press, the technique on everything that he does is absolutely laughable sometimes. But the man's achieved so much in boxing, and he's a good fighter in the sense that he's got devastating power, and he'll put anyone's lights out at that weight or below. But I can't really see any difference. I think Fury wins. I think he wins well, and then sets up hopefully the AJ fight.
Dillian White Ottavalin seems to be set for the end of October. What's your take on that one?
I think it's a good fight. I think it's better than the one they were talking about. I think it's a good fight for Dillian White. I love Dillian White. I always have done. I always liked him. I always got on with him. He's a proper man. He's a good fella. And he fights absolutely anyone, as is being proven. He doesn't want easy fights, does he? He wants to go for the hard fights and take the harder route. And sometimes with the messing around with the title, he's had no choice but to take the harder route. But he's come through and he's still here. Thought he'd done great coming back after Purewal. That was a devastating knockout. It could have affected him mentally, and he'd done well coming back after that. And I'd love to see him involved in big fights. I'd love to see him in with Wilder, but I think he takes what Wilder's got, unless a freak shot happens like the Purewal, a perfect shot like Purewal. I'd love to see him in with Wilder.
Canelo Plant, November 6th. Obviously, Canelo passed opponent to both Liam and Callum. I'm going to start getting confused even more so in a minute, Paul. But just going to get your thoughts on it. They're undisputed bout at super middleweight. What do you think will happen?
You've seen him up close, as I have, and I've seen him from the corner with Liam. I've seen him from a few rows back with Callum, and he's unbelievable. He's exceptional. He's improving all the time. Now, you know, he's the face of boxing. I can't see anything changing with Plant. I think Plant's decent, but you know, for me, I don't think he was the best out of the super middleweight bunch. I think Billy Joe Saunders would beat him. I think Callum would beat him, but he's there, and no disrespect to him whatsoever. He's a world champion. He's a worthy world champion. He's got a great backstory, you know, albeit you know, a bit sad, and I wish him every success, but I just can't see anyone beating Canelo. I can't see anyone beating Canelo. Light middle, super middle. You know, there's a couple of light heavies possibly, but again, I think he'd find a way every time, and it's freakish what he does with the frame that he's got and the size that he's got, and he holds his own with the likes of Kovalev and people of the size and stature of Callum and Plant. You know, so I see Canelo doing pretty much what he wants, to be honest with you. I think he's a very, very gifted and exceptional fighter.
Crawford Porter, that's one which I'm particularly looking forwards to. What is your take on it?
I think Crawford just have a bit too much. I think Porter's obviously a brilliant fighter, but I'm just glad seeing these type of fights being made. You know, it's good. And again, back to, we've only really got the social media to debate things on boxing and sport and everything else nowadays, but I'm getting a bit sick of this. MMA is better than boxing because all the best fights are being made. All the best fights would be made in boxing if it was one man controlling them all, or one promotion outfit controlling them all. They're fighting for the UFC belt. If it was the Matchroom belt, they'd be the best fights made. If it was the PBC belt, it'd be the best fighters made. You know, it's difficult to make fights when different promoters promote them. That's why they don't happen. A lot of the time, you know, it's money, but the fighters in boxing are paid top money and they're getting the share. In the UFC, I believe they're not so much. But I rate UFC, I like UFC, I respect it. You know, it's a tough game. You wouldn't catch me in there, but it's these type of fights are what boxing needs, and I'm glad it sort of didn't go to a pace bid, and a couple of promoters managed to get a bit of work done together, and it can be done. We've seen top promoters, top rivals working with each other in the past, and there's no reason why fights like this shouldn't be, you know, more of the norm as opposed to the exception.
Final thing, Paul, before I do let you go, obviously last weekend we saw a sad ending for Evander Holyfield, first round stoppage defeat to Vitor Belfort. What did you make of seeing him back, and of course what happened in that fight?
It was disgusting, and again, I'm just sick of seeing so many hypocrites on social media and hypocrites who are working in the boxing fraternity. They're still making money off it, or they're still showing it, or they're still doing interviews about it, or they're still doing podcasts about it. There's people in boxing who've been involved in boxing for 5 minutes, and they've got more to say about the people who've been involved in boxing for 40 years, 50 years, you know, well-respected people who know the game inside out. I think, like, the Boxing News, pissed off with it, rightly so. It's damaging for boxing. YouTubers, I've done a few interviews where I've said, you know what, good on them. If they're bringing money into boxing, and then fighters who don't get paid much at all on the undercard are getting the career best paydays, then I'm all for that. But boxer. I could go and call Pete Sampras out if I wanted to, or Andre Agassi, or a footballer or someone, or any of the UFC lads in a boxing ring, and it'd be the easiest night of my life, because it's apples and oranges. But if I were in a cage, I'd last 30 seconds with Rose Namajunas, a girl, a woman, a flyweight or whatever weight she is, she'd tie me in knots. And because it's not my sport, and the MMA lads are coming over and they know a bit of boxing, but they're not going to last with boxers. And I know the exception to the rule was Holyfield, but he's 58 years of age. You know, he's nearly 60. And the wars he's been in all that time ago. Again, I might look like a bit of a hypocrite. I was absolutely delighted to see Mike Tyson in the boxing ring again, just because he was my hero growing up. And I love seeing a couple of the little moves that he might still have. But it was an exhibition, and it should only be that. And even that I wasn't really fond of or keen on, and I didn't buy it, and I didn't stay up to watch it. I watched the repeat of it. But fighters, the only reason them type of fighters are in the ring is ego. Yeah. It's not money, it's ego. And it's ego that I've still got it, I've still got this. You haven't. And you didn't have it 15 years ago, so what makes you think you're going to have it now? Holyfield is a sad case. There's fighters in Britain, I've said this time and again, and I'll say it on record now. There's fighters in Britain that I see and they're slurring the words when they're talking. And they're affected by boxing, and they're damaged by boxing. And they still want to fight on. and there's no one around him to say to them, you're not fighting no more. It's done. It's over. Let it go. It's gone. It's just a career. It's not your life. Your life is with your kids and your grandkids and your family and future generations. And I used to laugh, and my dad used to say, when I'm 60, pull a plug on me, and I think 60's not old now. And I used to think, I don't want to be old and lose my dignity, so to speak. And then the more I think about it, I think if I have to be wheeled down an aisle to watch my kids or grandkids get married, do it, as long as I can see it. Because it's about them, and it's about your future. And as I say, there's boxers out there now, and they're slurring the words, and it's getting to that stage now where the licenses need speaking to strongly. He should never have got a license to fight. And the Boxing Board of Control can say the same thing, but you gave Freddie Flintoff a boxing license. You know what I mean? And it's, everyone is implicit in this. All of them. Me doing an interview with you now, we are, because of this. Everyone needs to turn their back on it and forget about it, and don't give it airtime. Don't give it any publicity, any column space, and wash our hands of it, because it's damaging to the sport now. And it's going to take one of them YouTubers to get caught, to hit their head on the canvas, or get knocked out, have a bleed, die, or get injured in a bad way, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but that's what it's going to unfortunately have to take for this circus to stop, because that's what it is. And boxers and ex-boxers, people always comment to me on Twitter, come back and box one of them. Hey, I'm no one to them. I'm an ex-boxer, nothing to any of them. They're YouTube stars and they're megastars on YouTube, because that's the generation we're in. And they want to fight against former UFC fighters or former American footballers or basketballers or NBA players. And for me, the whole lot of it stinks. I could, if I had a YouTube following like that, I could go and fight a fella off the street, or an actor, or someone else who had a name or a big following, but they're not boxers. And it just, as you can tell, it just pisses me off a bit. But there's a lot that needs to be said and done about it. If Holyfield's coming back for money, then the commissions, the boxing board, the commissions over in the States, we all need to do something about it, where we can maybe develop a pension fund for boxers, and all the stuff about how boxers get looked after when they're retired. No one's rang me to see if I'm okay. I've been retired 4 years. No one rings the boxers that I know who come in here who've retired years ago to see if they're okay. There's no care after boxing. There's nothing. It's basically, you're in, you make your life, you make your career, you make your money, fingers crossed. You get out, but once you're done, it's all the best. And if you're not good at talking on telly, or you're not good at being a coach, then what is there for you? Because you've put your life into a sport that's lasted so long, you haven't learned anything else on the way. So it's tough, but it's all linked, it's all intertwined, so to speak. And the fact that Holyfield has to come back and fight at 58, or wants to come back at 58, that's wrong, and it shouldn't be happening. And as I've said time and again, it's not for me at all.
Okay, Paul, we will leave that there now, and I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. I appreciate you giving up some time. I don't really know whether you're going to be allowed to walk past or not, because we was told off for trying to do so. So yeah, so thanks for speaking to Boxing Social.
Talking to you, mate. Thank you. All the best.